Welcome to Inside View, the program where you get a view from the inside. I'm Sarah Lunsford, and my guest today is Sheriff Dennis Downham. Hi, Dennis. How are you doing?
Good.
Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
First of all, what is your background? How did you end up becoming Sheriff of Calaveras County?
Well, actually, I was raised in West Point, here in Calaveras County, and I went to West Point Elementary, Calaveras High School.
Okay.
Basically, after high school, I went to the Bay Area and went to work for the Oakland Police Department. I worked there actually for 21 years. And in 1989, I moved back to the county, generally to be closer to my parents, my wife's parents, who are still here. And went to work as a fraud investigator in 1991 here in the county, and ended up running for sheriff in 94 and assumed the office in 95.
Okay, so you've been sheriff for 12 years.
Yeah, well, just last January I started my 4th term.
Now, how has Calaveras County changed since you've become sheriff? Not since you grew up, but since you became sheriff.
That could be a program all by itself.
That's right.
Actually, it's changed considerably. Certainly, growth motivated most of the change, and with growth comes demands on service, and quite frankly, it has, in the last 5 years, our calls for service have increased about 250%.
Oh, really?
So I guess the volume of calls and the types of calls that we're going on has changed dramatically in the last 10 years or so. Okay.
Do you see the changes as a result of people moving up here and expecting more services?
Well, yeah, and a lot of people are coming here from the Valley or the Bay Area, where a lot of people expect 2-minute response time from their police department, having services immediately available, and quite frankly, some folks call for things that we never used to get calls for.
Okay.
I mean, people call us because there's a rattlesnake on the property, or their 8-year-old child's out of control, or whatever. And there's just a variety of calls that we really never had before that we're getting now. And certainly people get irritated with us because on non-emergency calls, and we've got 1,100 square miles to take care of. And sometimes we're a long ways off, so our response times are not what they should be.
Now, how many sheriff's deputies do you have?
Actually, there are 62 sworn positions in the Sheriff's Department. That includes me to the newest vacant position.
Okay.
We generally, if our patrol staff is fully staffed, we will have 26 deputies on patrol. We never get to that point. Right now, I'm 7 people short, and so we're always having to bring our detective staff over to patrol to work patrol, and just to answer calls for services. So.
Okay. Now, with the increase in calls for service, obviously it increases the capacity or the need for larger capacity for the jail. So what happens when there's too many people in the jail, so you can't put people in there?
We had a sheriff named Claude Ballard back in 1986, and Claude Ballard was the first sheriff that we can find that put to paper the need for a new jail in Calaveras County.
Oh, in 1986?
1986.
Wow.
In 1992, a court-ordered capacity limit was placed on the jail. At that time, there was 58 bed capacity. Okay. We got some grant monies, one thing and another, added a few more beds. Right now, we have a 65-bed capacity. So every day, basically at 5 o'clock, we have to do a count, and we cannot be over 65 people. And we generally book somewhere around 75 or 80 people a day. And I'm sorry, we don't book that many people a day, but we will have 75 or 80 people in our jail. So generally at the end of the day, we're kicking everybody out over the magic 65 number. And in some cases, we don't even book them in. We cite them and release them because we know that we'd have to release them anyway. It's simply not a good situation.
How do you decide who to release and who to keep?
Part of it, the biggest part of it is set up. The criteria is set up by the courts. Certainly, it's the last people that we would ever turn loose are people that are there on violent type crimes. But there is, I mean, certainly misdemeanors go first. Lower level felonies are kind of based on percentage of their sentences served. There's a whole formula that comes into play. But certainly, some people will show up there with 6 months to do, and they'll basically get booked and credit for time served, and they're gone.
Really?
And we generally run an all-felony jail. And a lot of people may think that, gee, misdemeanors don't need to be in jail anyway. Well, I don't think those people have taken into effect that the people that are there that continually steal things, maybe somebody gets sentenced there for their third or fourth drunk driving arrest. Those kinds of things, those are misdemeanors, and we can't keep them. And and quite frankly, if the judge tells someone that they're going to do a certain amount of time, they ought to serve pretty close to that, or it really takes the meaning out of our system.
Now, I want to go back a little bit to the early 90s when the judgment was handed down. What actually precipitated it to go to the courts?
Well, basically, they were housing about 90 people in that jail at that time. They had mattresses on the floor. They had mattresses in the hallway. They basically were stacking them in. And quite frankly, there were quite a few during that time period. There were a lot of federal lawsuits being filed that were very costly, very intense. The administration, the Sheriff's Department at that time, basically filed a suit against themselves with the local court, and the local courts put the capacity limit, and that was done to fend off a federal suit that would have cost us a ton of money. So it was, even though it sounds weird, it was a good decision. So
it kept the federal government from coming in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you never get away from the feds cheap.
No. No, you don't. Now, I just want to fast forward a little bit to what you mentioned about it's basically an all-felon jail. What is the difference between a felony and a misdemeanor?
Well, generally a felony, you can go to state prison for it. Generally a much more serious crime, like for theft. If you steal something of a value over $400, it's a felony. If it's under, it's a misdemeanor. It's based on the seriousness of your crime. Okay.
Now, are you seeing a lot of people coming back in with misdemeanors? And then just you have to just let them go?
In 1995, 24% of the people we released early were rearrested while they should have still been in jail. In 06, that number moved over 30%. And I mean, if you think about it, look at the burden it puts on every element of our justice system. I mean, it takes more deputy time to rearrest this. There's another victim. The DA's office has to deal with it. The probation department has to deal with it. The courts have to deal with it. And these are multiple cases that should have never happened, should have never been necessary. There shouldn't have been another victim out there.
Okay. Now, ideally, what size jail does Calaveras County need?
We had a needs assessment done back in the late 90s. We had it updated about a year ago. We knew we needed to update it because of the unexpected phenomenal growth that was going on. The needs assessment tells us that we need 240 beds to get us out 20 years.
And you have
65.
You have a 65 cap.
Yes.
Okay.
And our current jail was built in 1963, and it was built in a linear design that's very work intensive. If we had to shut that jail down for whatever reason for 24 hours, empty it out, the state would never let us reopen it. We're grandfathered into everything. The doorways are too small.
Is there any way you can just shut it down? Should I say that on television?
I've got to have some place to put people. But it's a very unsafe facility. It's dangerous both for inmates and staff. But with people often ask me, why don't you just expand the jail? There's no place to go. That place was originally built to put another story on it. You know, go up 2 stories.
Okay.
Real expensive. You almost have to double your staff. But since the jail was built, all the building codes have changed, and nobody would ever allow us to put another story on it.
Okay.
But quite frankly, when I put the new addition on back in 98 or 99 of the new 8 beds that we got, we took up part of the parking lot, and there's just simply, there's no room, there's no place to go.
Well, it's actually, if people take a jail tour, they'll see that where inmates are booked in is not secure.
No. The grand jury criticizes us every year for not having a secure area to bring inmates in, and also we don't have any secure way to take them to court. We have to walk them outside, and
back into the courtroom.
Yeah, it's a deplorable situation, but if we made that a secure area with the necessary fencing and so forth, we'd block off access to basically the fire escape for the courts.
Yes.
So we can't. There's no way around it. No.
So, a few years ago, it looked like there was no way you would ever get funding for your jail. So, bring us up to speed as to what happened in the last. Well, actually, Under Sheriff Walker was here just when the state legislature approved an emergency bill.
Yeah.
And so what happened with that emergency bill?
Well, basically the reason the state funding is coming our way is because the state prison system is
severely
really
overcrowded.
Yes, it has severe problems. A 3-court panel of federal judges is going to make a decision before very long whether to put a cap or a capacity limit on the jail or on the state prison system. Right now they house about 172,000 people in there. The courts have made statements that there shouldn't be over 140,000 people or 135,000. So basically they're talking about turning 40,000 state inmates loose. The state's first reaction was, well, let's push them back to the counties. There's 23 sheriff's departments in the state, or sheriff's offices in the state, that have capacity limits on their jails already. County's got no place to put them.
Now, are most of them rural counties?
A lot of them are, but some of them
are
bigger counties too.
Oh, okay. So the state has a problem.
The state sheriffs release about 5,000 people a day early in total.
Oh, on the state level.
On the statewide.
So you add that to the county level, and there's quite a few.
No.
Or am I confused?
That's just county sheriffs like
county
me.
Sheriffs. Oh,
release about 5,000 people every day early.
Now, on the state prison level, do they release early as well?
No.
Oh, they don't?
No.
So it's just on the local level?
They do have a parole program. Well, no politician in his right mind wants to be accused of releasing somebody early.
Well, that's true.
So,
that's true.
But they don't mind the counties doing it, but the state's not going to do it themselves. Anyway, the initial plan, the state sheriffs objected strongly to it. The state decided to look at the entire system the way it should be looked at.
Okay.
Because there's not one person in state prison that didn't come through a county jail. I mean, that's just a fact of life.
It's just the way it works.
And they finally recognized that the county jails were in serious bad shape. So they passed AB 900,
yes,
which provides several billions of dollars. One component of it is to fix some of the prison systems, to build more beds on existing prison grounds. Another component of it is to provide money to counties to build local jails. The third component is what they're referring to as the reentry program, where they bring people that have about a year left to do in state prison. They bring them into a smaller, generally about a 500-bed facility, give them some very intense rehabilitation programming stuff, and Well, basically, that's the three components.
Okay.
The state has told us pretty clearly that if you don't participate in a state reentry program, there's no use to apply for the money because
Okay.
I mean they're putting all the it's kind of the stick and carrot theory. We have worked very hard for the last several months with San Joaquin and Amador County, and it's basically been approved that the old women's prison down in Stockton
Yes.
will be used as a regional reentry facility for Amador, Calaveras, and San Joaquin County.
Okay.
So our people that are being released from state prison early will come to that reentry facility for their last 6 months to a year or whatever and get some very intense programming. Our commitment is that our mental health, our drug and alcohol people, whatever is necessary, will go basically introduce themselves, and so those people can kind of make a seamless transition back to their county of commitment, know who the mental health worker might be or know who their drug and alcohol counselor might be, and try to keep them on track. So I personally, I think it's a great plan. But if we're looking specifically at jail construction, we've met our commitment for that element, and we will get the points for a reentry facility.
Okay. Now, as far as reentry goes, are those people re-entering back through that facility? Are they actually did they come out of Calaveras to begin with? Is that how that works?
It is absolutely mandatory that only those people will have to go back to their county of commitment. If they were sent to prison from Calaveras County, they will come back to Calaveras County. They're generally our home people, but we're not getting them from anywhere else.
Okay. Now, where's the money coming from for the reentry program?
That is all part of AB 900, the state legislation.
Did they move money from a different...
No. My understanding is it's a type of bond that the legislature can approve and sell themselves, basically.
Oh, okay. Because there was some confusion about where the money was coming from,
Right,
I know,
so
at the time.
It's all state money. At this point, for the local jail construction, 25% of that will need to be local money. Everything else is coming from the state. And the reentry piece of it is 100% state dollars, 100% state money.
Now, there are already programs in the Calaveras County Jail that are similar to sort of reentry programs. This is what I've heard.
Well, there used to be. We used to run a really good adult tutoring program. We send work crews out. We had a variety of stuff. We had a lot of drug and alcohol counseling going on. But quite frankly, most of those programs, even our drug and alcohol rehab programs here in the county, our jail has gotten to the point where people are refusing to go to them. So it's taking a lot of meaning away from it. I mean, when you walk into the judge and the judge says, okay, you can go to this program, you're going to pay a fine, you're going to be on probation, you're going to do these things, and the defendant looks at the judge and says, nah, roll it into jail time for me, because they know they're going to get booked and released.
So they figure it out.
Oh, absolutely. You ought to, any Monday morning, you ought to go over and see the people lined up to turn themselves in. If the jail's full, they're there. And so some people that could be helped significantly by drug and alcohol programs are simply...
They just are not availing
themselves. There's no motivation. It's easier to go to jail and get kicked.
Okay. Now, as far as the new jail goes, obviously you can't build a new jail on its current footprint.
Right.
Where would the new jail be?
Actually, for years, the property below the library, coming down where those portables are, the road department, in that area would be the courthouse and jail.
Okay.
We are looking at other properties,
and
if we can find a larger property, we would prefer building there because it would make it easier for expansion in the future. But right now, we're guaranteed that property, so we've got the ground, which puts us way ahead again in the grant process. So we're in good shape for ground.
And as far as money goes, obviously in November, a bond measure is coming up to help with the 25% grant match.
We asked the Board of Supervisors to place Measure J on the ballot for November. The board has certainly recognized the need for what we're trying to accomplish. And basically, it's a $31 million bond issue. It would be placed on properties, and the rate is $19 and some change per 100,000 of assessed evaluation. We patterned it after the Calaveras Unified School Bond that was successful here a couple years ago. The average amount that a property owner would pay over the life of the bond would be a little over $18 per 100,000 assessed evaluation.
And that's annually?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, as far as the new jail goes, I know that you have all your ducks in a row. You have the reentry program. You need to get the match part of it. What goes into getting approval for a new jail?
Well, certainly.
Without the money part of it.
a big part of it's going to be based on need.
Okay.
We will, in December, we will receive a grant application. We'll prepare that, and at some point in January, we will have to appear in front of the Correction Standards Authority, make a presentation on that, lay out our need, our cost, our everything we can lay out. And quite frankly, I believe personally that we're going to be successsul. The state sheriffs ran a very strong campaign. Even the governor has thrown us into a couple of speeches that they basically use Calaveras County as the poster child for the need of a new jail.
Which is good and bad, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. But the only element that we're desperate for is the match, the 25% match.
Okay.
Now, I do have to explain, if you'll give me a second, exactly what the Major J, what that money would go for.
Okay.
We need $10 million for a match to get the $30 million from the state, because the jail is about a $40 million project.
Okay.
Along with that, we're asking the voters for $14 million to build all the buildings that need to be co-located with the jail, like the sheriff's office for the storage of records. The sheriff's office is the security for the jail. And I don't know if you've ever been to our facility, but the sheriff's office...
I've taken a tour of your facility.
But see, the sheriff's office and jail they're just commingled.
Yes, they are.
But the state won't pay for that side of it.
They just don't pay for the jail?
Just for the jail.
Okay.
So that side of it we need to build ourselves. And so $14 million is dedicated for that. I mean, that includes the dispatch center, emergency operating center, housing for the deputies, the evidence records, all those kinds of things. And then there are $6 million in the bond specifically for infrastructure monies, and that's the sewer, water, roads, electricity, gas, all those kinds of things. So that's basically what the money will go for. There is $1 million figured into it for contingencies, and I think that's, no, I'm sorry, it's not contingencies, it's insurance.
Okay.
It's insurance for the bond.
Now, it's my understanding that this new facility, it will be built kind of on a pod principle.
The jail will be built in a podular fashion where you can add pods. We have to build in the podular design, and if we don't, 20 years down the road, the next sheriff will be cussing us something horrible, because we don't want to put someone in a position they have to build the whole new facility. We want them to be able to add pods and add on, and we believe that we can build a podular facility that will last Calaveras County 40 years or more.
Now, is the master sort of thought that the courts will move over right next to the jail facility?
We are doing our best to co-locate the jail and the courts. If we're not able to do that, now the courts for Calaveras County have gotten state money. It's in the state budget to fund the Calaveras County courthouse construction. Now that's like a 4 or 5 year project. So so if everything works like we want it to work, we will be ahead of them, but not
not too much.
we need to co-locate, because if we don't, then we have to build in a transportation system to get people from the jail to court and back, and that's an ongoing, never-ending cost that we don't want to take. So it's very important for us to co-locate.
Okay. So it's a $31 million bond.
Yes.
And what is the life of the bond?
30 years, I believe.
30 years.
Yes.
So essentially $18 per $100,000 of assessed value.
Yes.
For 30 years.
Yes. So
Okay.
people that are protected by Prop 13 in their house is like $100,000. It's $18.
Well, that's not bad.
For others, it increases.
It's a little more.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the cost that is sort of what I call being bled out of the sheriff's department now for turning people away?
I don't know that I can give you an exact cost. I know that there are compounding costs, like the rearrests and all those sorts of things. I think it's more a cost to the community, and it's a cost to the security and the lifestyle that we expect here in Calaveras County. When we put somebody in jail and the judge orders them to be there for a specific period of time, and instead they're back out on the street making another victim, it's the quality of life issue, and I think it's a bigger cost for the community than it is us. I mean, it's an irritation, and it demoralizes us to some extent, but the real cost is the community.
So it's an intangible, almost
Yes.
intangible cost. And also you're giving tours, not you personally, but some of your deputies are giving tours.
You know, we have set it up. This is critically important to us, and we have set it up where Thursdays and Saturdays we do take individuals, community groups, church groups, fraternal orders, whoever wants to, for a tour of the facility.
Okay.
And we have certainly had people at the start of the tour basically telling us that, you know, we don't need anything, and by the time we get them out the other end, they're an advocate for us.
Okay.
We encourage people to come and see what it is we're talking about, because I can tell people all day long how bad the jail situation is, but when they see it, it's a done deal.
And we're almost out of time. What time are those Thursday and Saturday tours?
I believe they're 9 o'clock, and if they would call 754-6599, we'll set them up.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on the program. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us here on The Inside View. We'll see you again soon.